When Moses and the Israelites left Egypt, as told in Exodus 16, there was soon a murmuring. Now, if you've read Exodus, you know that a murmuring amongst the people kind of happened a lot. This first murmuring was about food, which I get that. You know, you've just triumphantly left Egypt a couple days down the road and you're like, we should stop for snacks. Now, you may recall that God's solution to this problem of wandering about the desert was to have bread or manna appear in the fields each morning, and that everyone was supposed to take only what was needed for their household for that day, but double on the sixth day for the Sabbath, of course. Now, some people didn't listen, which is a recurring theme also in Exodus, which is maybe why it took 40 years. Some people didn't listen and they took more, and some people took less. And of course, those who tried to save it overnight when it wasn't the Sabbath found that it had become rotten and overnight. Now, I think, you know, the interpretation of this is rather clear. Manna representing substance and our needs, and also the trust that our needs will be supplied. We trust that our needs will be supplied, and then we don't need to hoard. And I think you can add a little thing. It's like, okay, the Sabbath is coming. I need a little extra. We need to plan ahead, yes, but we don't need to overdo. This month, the theme, the idea that we're exploring is enough. Enough. There are lots of different things to talk about. There are several aspects we're going to explore. But today we're talking about manna from heaven. Unity's co-founder Charles Fillmore wrote in Prosperity, even though there seems to be material lack, there is plenty of substance for all. We are standing in the midst of it. Like the fish, we might ask, where is the water? When we live and move and have our being in it. We are standing in the very midst of it. Now, substance, the way that we use substance in Unity is it's the energy behind everything. It's tangible and untangible. It's not matter, but the idea behind matter. Now, completely wrapping your brain around that is not important. Like I've said before, that's one of those like super deep dive things. But what's important to know is that substance is the everywhere, and it's beyond the perceptible where. So it's everywhere and beyond the where. And I think it's okay to think of it sort of like matter, but more like matter plus. And what's important to remember is that we teach that it is always there and that we are in the midst of it. We are it. It's everything. And from this substance that is everywhere and beyond the where, there is the divine potential to bring forth everything. There is plenty for all. There's no end to substance, just as there's no end to infinity. There's no end to infinity. There's no end to substance. There is enough. Maybe you've heard that moralizing comment about there are two types of people in the world, those who go to a party and take one slice because there might not be enough, and those who take three for the same reason. Now, usually the point of this little saying is to either encourage you to sacrifice for the group, assuming that 2 pieces of pizza is what everybody actually needs, but that's beside the point. Either to sacrifice for the group or to shame those who take more than they need. But I think they also miss an important point, and that is that we can order more pizza. We can order more in this made up situation. Now, yes, there's more to it than that. We know that what we do affects our global neighbors and the earth. We know that it is wise to be in alignment with what we actually need and to aim to do no harm. We know that having resources in our pantry is prudent because things happen. Natural disasters happen. Ships don't show up with the supplies. It's good to have stuff in their pantry, but we also know that overstocking can be wasteful. So if we live into the truth of there being enough, that is embracing a trust as the Israelites did, that our needs will be met in the right time. Our needs will be met in the right time, and letting go of concern about missing out. Now, pop culture calls this fear of missing out, or FOMO, fear of missing out. And it's a wonderful thing to notice, because once we notice, we can use our wisdom to discern whether the object or activity we're interested in is worth our time or money or energy, because it's truly fulfilling a need or a deep desire, or if it's impulsive or peer pressure or clout or something like that. And I'm not against doing fun things, or even I'm not against doing impulsive things. But it's the place that we come from when we do them. When it comes from a fear of missing out place, the joy is temporary and it becomes more tchotchke, either figuratively or literally. When we come from knowing that we are enough and that there is enough, then the joy comes from following our highest calling. I think that, or I've noticed that, okay, back up half a step. Sometimes I get ahead of myself. I get so excited. We know that, or we teach that these divine ideas, these concepts, we think about abundance is a divine idea. And so knowing that there's enough is an expression of knowing the abundance in this context we're talking about today. And so when there's an idea of lack, then it's a misuse of that idea, divine idea of abundance. And so so we can talk about the fear of missing out or the needing to do things, and that's maybe related to either it may be truth, or maybe a perception that, like, if I don't do this thing now, then I'll never get a chance to do it. And if it's something that you really have a heart's desire to do, then you should do it if it really is the last chance you're going to have to do it. But I think sometimes we get caught up in this, like, oh, well, this is a thing we have to do, and it's not. It's not. But we are feeling like if we do that thing, then we'll feel that feeling of abundance. Or some people take it to more extremes, where they really take a whole lot more. Instead of just taking 3 slices of pizza, because it might be enough, they take the whole pizza box. And that is sad and definitely not in alignment with the belief that there is enough. But we can also see, maybe with some compassion, that it comes from a fear. And so I believe that, healing so many of these things in the world is about us coming back into alignment with knowing the spiritual truth instead of coming through it with these misperceptions or misunderstandings of their spiritual truth. And sometimes, well, if somebody's taking the whole pizza box, that is kind of stealing, but there's, stealing, there's just holding lots of resources, there's not paying fair wages. There's all sorts of ways that people express that. It's all connected to this not enough or not enough idea. Now, prosperity gospel churches, they will talk a good talk and they will focus on all that giving. You give to us, and then you will get. And it works in the short term because you kind of clear out all these, maybe some surface level stuckness or worries that you might have about money because you've placed your trust, unfortunately, in this personality instead of the divine idea of abundance. But my objection is manyfold. We're not going to go all the way down that hole, but because I don't have a problem with abundance, but focusing on getting stuff, it doesn't sit right in my heart. And I don't have a problem with having nice things. I like nice things. I like things that work. But I don't think that it should be because we're trying to keep up with someone or some external, some driver or influence that says that, when we reach a certain thing, we'll have arrived. I believe that people should come to grow in their spiritual journey because they have a desire in their heart, and that it shouldn't be guilt or striving to attain something. I want all of us to experience our abundance in every aspect of our lives, not only in the money front. My desire is for us to experience the abundance of enough, trusting that our needs will be met with joy and compassion. When we can see that there is enough, we can share. Because there's enough, we can share. We can share our time, our love, our joy, our money. And you know what? We can even share our sorrows because we know there's enough compassion to support us. And we know that we are here to give and receive love and compassion. And so by allowing a sharing of our authentic experience, we allow another to share that love with us, and we take turns. There's enough. We can ask, as the Israelites did, for our needs to be met. We can ask. It actually works. And, here's the thing. How their needs were met was not what they expected. And that's a great thing to remember, because when we ask, we come from this place of saying, okay, I'm ready for something different, or I'm ready for more of this, or whatever that is. It's also really important to say, we know that these things come in known and unknown ways. We don't want to limit the good because we think it needs to fit from this particular location or this particular venue. When we say, my good can come from wherever it comes from. Yeah, let's do it. Manna from heaven. when there appears to not be enough, as students of truth, we have the opportunity to first see it rightly. That's what Eric Butterworth said about prayer, is that first, that prayer is about seeing it rightly and about us. And then he didn't say this part, but I think he implied it. That first we see it rightly in us, and then we can do the next step, the action step, to help make it rightly in the world. So if it appears to be not enough, first we have to tune into knowing that it's an appearance. It's not the final answer, that there is enough. And then we do our part to resolve whatever the blockage is. And in your own life, that could be any number of misbeliefs or family stories about what's the right amount. In some, when I lived in the Midwest, if you complimented someone on an outfit, a proper response would be something like, I got it on sale, or I got it for only $2.99, or whatever it was, right? So the proper response was to, make it more okay by saying you got it for a really good deal. And I mean, it is kind of fun to be like, hey, I got something for a really good deal. But it's an interesting thing to think about, right? So just as something to think about, like, what are the stories or misbeliefs that we have about, like, are we allowed to have enough? Are we allowed to have nice things and just have nice things because of what makes us happy? Not because we're trying to obtain or hoard or be better than someone, but because it brings us joy. In our community, in our world context, it's the same thing. We have these ideas that there's low resources and impossibilities, and that these things are what keeps some people from, having enough. It is what keeps some people from it's what keeps some people malnourished, and all of these other things that tug at our hearts. But really, we know that there is enough, and that the issue is both human-made, consciously and unconsciously. The issue is human-made, and it is human solvable when we change our hearts and minds. Albert Einstein said, we can't solve the problem in the same consciousness that we created it. That's a paraphrase, not a direct quote. And that is exactly, we don't need to put limits on what is possible, because there is enough. And so we just need to change our minds, change our hearts, and believe that there is enough, and that everyone is worthy of these things too. There's that. So we must raise our view. We believe that there is enough for us, for our neighbors, for our global community. And then we must move forward with the end in mind. If we hold the vision of enough for everyone, then we just step back and see where we need to do something about it. It's super simple. It is. It really is. And I would say that many of the conflicts that we see in our world come down to a belief that there isn't enough. But there is enough. Substance is everywhere and beyond the where. We can ask and call forth and call for enough pizza for ourselves and everyone else too. There is enough.